This video is about the one time a Boeing 727 was crashed on purpose. Now, this isn't the first time a plane has been crashed on purpose, as this might be an entirely different video in itself, but this one particular instance happened on the 27th of April 2012. However, the big question is, why? Why on earth would you decide to do this? I mean, there are many legitimate reasons why, but on the face of it, it seems pretty devastating to have to do that just for the hell of it. A group of researchers were looking into flight safety, and while it's useful to have simulations and theories on what might happen if a plane does crash, these events are incredibly rare, and it's difficult to study a plane crash given that not many people are waiting for this to happen. They normally have the wreckage after the event to get an idea of what might have happened and for the contents therein, but aside from that, the scientists are pretty limited in the studies they can do. So, in the name of science, scientists managed to get themselves an ex-Alaska Airlines Boeing 727 and purposely crashed it into the ground. Science is truly fascinating, isn't it? The aircraft used was a Boeing 727-200, purchased by the multinational team of television studios to stage the crash. Basically, a multinational group of television studios decided to invest in this once retired plane and, owned by National Geographic, sent it hurtling to the ground. This plane, having had its first flight in 1977, this Boeing 727 had been in service for 34 years and 8 months, and this was going to be its last flight. A one-way trip straight into the ground. Aside from the whole scientific side of things, just out of morbid curiosity, who doesn't want to see a plane crash into the ground? And don't take that out of context, but what I mean is, for the purposes of science, where nobody gets hurt. Just to be abundantly clear on that. The plane was fitted with numerous cameras, Big Brother style, along with various scientific apparatus, and also crash test dummies in order to test how people might fare in the event that their plane hit the ground. So, where does one undertake such a test? Bearing in mind that a Boeing 727 is bloody massive, and to crash a plane you're going to need a lot of space. So, a few ideas are thrown out there, but one in particular seemed to be the correct answer. The team originally wanted to crash the plane in the United States of America, but this was rejected due to safety concerns involved with crashing a plane into the ground, for obvious reasons. Mexico, on the other hand, were all up for it, albeit that they wanted some additional safety measures putting in place before allowing it to happen, so it wasn't a complete free-for-all. One thing they wanted was for a real pilot to fly the plane. In my opinion, I think that's more risky, but I guess that's more so for the pilot than anything else. Basically, they wanted somebody to actually maneuver the aircraft and get it on the right trajectory, heading towards the ground, shall we say. And then, beyond that, the pilot would have to get out and escape before this plane hit the floor. Do you know what? It's actually incredibly interesting how much you could find out about a plane, so if you're as sad as me, maybe go online and have a look sometime. The Boeing 727 involved took off in the morning of the 27th of April 2012, with 3 crew members aboard, 2 pilots and an engineer. This was a requirement by the Mexican authorities since the plane would be over some populated areas at the very start of the experiment. The whole crew would parachute out of the plane, with the pilot doing so 3 minutes before impact. Which is incredibly ballsy. Someone buy that man a pint. After jumping out, the aircraft was remotely piloted by a Navy general and went straight into the floor. So, what happened? Well, I think the best way to explain that to you is to simply show you the crash. What? You didn't think I was going to show you? I know they did this for science, but do they seriously expect anyone to survive that? Beats me. So, after the crash, they got in there, started inspecting the plane, but also more importantly, the passengers they had inside. Upon impact, which although doesn't look very fast, was going 140 miles per hour at the time, smashing into the ground and collapsing the landing gear instantly. The plane smashed into several pieces, with the cockpit separating from the main body of the plane on impact. As a result of this, the findings were that those at the front of the plane were most at risk, so the next time you're cramped into the back of your plane stuck watching Mamma Mia, at least you know that the rich will not have better prospects than you if the plane comes crashing to the ground in the way it did. If anything, in-flight Mamma Mia might actually serve you better. Those near the wings would probably face some injuries, but nothing life-threatening. Notably, passengers in the back of the plane, near the tail, walked away with relatively few injuries and, in some cases, absolutely unharmed. The footage itself inside the plane and inspecting the aftermath of the crash also tested other things, such as the brace position for those on board, which found to actually help prevent spinal cord or head injuries compared to those that did not brace. And at the end of the day, those parts are pretty important. So anything you can do to mitigate the damage is surely worth doing, right? And yeah, pretty much the test dummies at the rear tailgate of the plane were relatively unharmed, and if it was an actual person, I mean, some of those people might have been able to get away no problem. I would stipulate some, because bearing in mind this is an absolutely huge plane crash, so, you know, there's going to be a few fatalities here or there, give or take. However, it is worth noting that this is entirely dependent on how the plane hits the ground. In this case, the front of the plane landed first, but there has been flights in the past, such as when a plane's tail smashed into the ground first, the opposite may very well be the case. This is incredibly interesting, not only due to the fact that we can watch a plane smash into the ground, but more importantly than that, the scientific study of the area, but in particular safety of how we make our flights safer in the future, and in the event something like this happens, things we can do to maybe try and mitigate that damage just a little bit. The results of this study was televised on the Discovery Channel and also other channels in the United Kingdom and Germany. So if you ever wanted to watch the whole programme, you know, aside from me blabbing about it, then I'm sure you can find it somewhere. But hey, next time you're on a flight, just remember those things. So yeah, that's the one time that we decided to crash a plane on purpose in the middle of nowhere. I mean, why the hell not? Let's hope something like this doesn't happen for real, but at least we have the scientific tests and studies in order to back up some of these theories, so knowledge is power. If you guys liked that video, here's another one just like it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Fantastic.